So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for those of you who've joined us on Zoom today. We're here with Darren and Stuart from McDonald Waterfall Education, who are going to do a hair demonstration for us today. Just as a brief introduction as to what this is, why we're doing this. So this is part of our virtual week of inspiration, which is replacing Salon Cornwall, because obviously we can't do that this year. My name's Rachel. I work on the Hospitality Table Cornwall European Social Funded project, which is behind Salon Cornwall, and we have curated all of this content for you this week. So please do ask as many questions as you can in the chat box. We've also got Ruth from Wella on the chat, so she'll be asking the guys questions, and if you've got any issues at all, just pop them in the chat box. We can't see you and we can't hear you, but we can see everything in the chat box, so please do put as much in there as you can. And the other thing to say is this is recording, so next week we'll have this up on YouTube for you guys to watch again. So I'm going to turn myself off, you won't hear from me again, and hand over to everyone else.
Hello everybody, you having a good day? Can't hear you. Yeah, all right. Go on.
Good afternoon, guys. Stuart here from MW Education.
My name's Darren as well, I'm from MW Education. First of all, before we do our instructions, what we're doing today, we're just going to run a little video just to show you guys a bit about us and what we do. So I'm just going to put our little presentation on, so bear with me a few seconds. Excellent. Hello, everybody. So, before we get on with the demo, we are just going to talk you through our ethos, how we work, and basically just to introduce yourselves to us if you don't know us already. So, first of all, this is our mindset for the next few hours. This is a term that I use quite a lot. So, excellence is not a destination, it's a journey that never ends. And the idea of this is, a lot of people think that if you just go and do a course, spend a day doing a course, doing something, or do one haircut, that's you've learned that, that's it, next thing on, and that's it. But that's not how we approach our industry. It's a journey that never ends. So we aim to make small little improvements every day on every aspect of what we do, whether it be combing through hair, taking off sections, tension, just concentrate on the little things, and over time you become a master of your trade. And that's what we're aiming for. It's a long journey, but we aim to become a master of what we do. So that's today's ethos. So, okay, a little bit about us. A partnership formed on the belief that a strong working knowledge of line, graduation and layering is an essential foundation for a career in this industry. We fundamentally believe that. So, on from that, once these disciplines have been understood and mastered, the classic shapes can be re-engineered into creative ones, where their possibilities to create ever-evolving shapes are endless. So what this means is we believe that if you learn, we have a system of 9 haircuts. In those haircuts, we have put every technique we feel that a stylist needs to know to be competent in the salon. So once you know these 9 haircuts, we then re-engineer them, where we take elements from different cuts and we put them together in different ways. And this is a way of future-proofing yourself and allows you to be comfortable in the salon and to create anything you want. And whenever a client comes in, you are secure that you know to execute what needs to be done. Simple as that. Okay. So, what we're on to now, our glossary. So this is, again, we're just still introducing ourselves, we're just going through our terminology so you understand what we're going to be talking about today. So the MW123, this is our methodology, this is how we approach hair. It's a number system. Stuart's going to go through it in a bit more detail on the next slide, but just bear with us, and it really does sink in and it really works. It makes life really easier when you start using this terminology. The box. The box is a portfolio of our 9 modern cuts. So these are our classics, these are those 9 cuts I was telling you about. Once you know these cuts, it makes you fundamentally stronger, and as well, it's future-proofing yourself. And then onto our hashtag, there is no box. Now, the idea of there is no box, we always say if you want to be creative, that you need to think outside of the box. But once you realise there isn't a box in the first place, that you're not holding yourself out, you don't need to tiptoe out of that box in order to be creative. Just liberate yourself, be creative all the time. So, there is no box. Keep it up. So, on to the basic foundations of hairdressing, hair cutting, line, graduation, layering. Sure, want to go through?
Yes, so we break it down so it's really easy for the learner, the student, or one of our students to learn. So 1 stands for lines, 2 stands for graduation, and 3 stands for layering.
So this numbering system is what we use to build all of our haircuts and how to execute our haircuts. So when we are discussing a haircut, we will discuss through the number, which you will learn on today.
Then after that, we go on to the next diagram. This is quite useful. We have the numbering system down one side, 1 for lines, 2 for graduation, and 3 for layering. But across the top now, we have the shapes. We have a circle shape, a square shape, and a triangular shape. And within that, you can make different shapes and creativity to no boundaries at all.
It's all about those building blocks and how we create different styles in the hair and different shapes. So, today we are doing M2MW. So, just a little bit more information about us. We usually do 3 fundamental courses. The first course is our M course. M is working on the foundations, those 9 classic cuts that are the building blocks of every creative cut we do. In the middle, we have our W cut, or W course, sorry. W is salon creative. So it helps stylists just bridge that gap from doing the foundations and move up to being creative in the salon with our clients. MW is our more creative course where we're doing fashion work, stuff that's for photo shoots or on stage. So the M2MW course, we're going to be showing you how to do a foundation technique, which Stuart will be executing today. And I'll be using the same techniques to create a creative look. And it's really as simple as that. So before we get started, Stuart's just going to go through his sectioning patterns. I just want to let you know in advance that if you wanted these section patterns that we are for the cuts we're doing today, if you message us on Instagram, you'll see the link at the end of this presentation, and we will send you over a PDF of the cuts that we've done. So you don't have to worry about making notes and stuff. We're going to send it all to you if you want to.
So the haircut that I'm going to be taking you through today is, as Darren said, is from our M family, which is a foundation haircut. And it's the 2-1. The 2 standing for graduation and the 1 standing for the line. And the shape that I'm going to be taking you through is a triangular shape. So we start off with 0-0, which is our section patterning. And then we go from our section patterning into starting our haircut. Now we have a triangular shape right at the bottom that we take the first section and we elevate out to our graduation length as we pull out, and then we pull in the 2 sections either side into the first section. So we've got sort of like a concave look.
So Stuart's just going through the basics, so you will be executing in a minute, so don't worry. He's just literally going through the sectioning pattern as we start.
And then we're going to be pivoting, working up one side, elevating round into building up the graduation. Same the other side, and then we're going to be pulling everything down onto that graduated line.
Easy as that. So, for myself, I'm doing one of our creative cuts. This is a 2-1 plus 2-3. So this is a graduation with a line, which is what Stuart's doing, and then on top of that, we're adding more graduation and a layer. So as you can see, it's quite a creative cut. So there's the 0-0, the basic sectioning patterns. I've already done the underneath, which Stuart's going to be going through today anyway, so I'm mainly concentrating on top. So the section patterns up until that point are exactly the same as Stuart. So starting around the back, building that graduation from the centre, and this is a triangular graduation. So as we're pivoting round, building that weight up on both sides, and then from there, pulling that hair down to the top of that graduation, creating a new line that works around to the front on both sides. Then after that, we have these sections on the top. I'm working from a centre parting, taking diagonal sections, and pulling it all, creating a new line, basically. And this is going to be completely disconnected from the underneath. So by pulling this weight line out to these sides, exactly the same on both sides, that will then fall naturally to a point at the front, which will need refining once it's been blow dried. So today we're just doing these, the wet cuts, and then I'll be going through the refining afterwards as well. We're on for about just under an hour. Then we're going to switch over to Dennis, who's part of our global education team, and he's going to go through another creative look with you. Okay, so here is the info. If you want to take a picture of that, so you can, if you want the diagrams, we'll send it to you. I'll leave it up there for 5 seconds or so if you want to get a copy of that. And then we'll get on with the demo. Has anyone got any questions at the moment? No? Everyone's quiet? Fantastic. Okay. Stuart, do you want to start?
No questions.
No questions, all right. Okay. Stuart, tell us what you're doing.
So yeah, I'm going to be working on zone 3 and 4 because of the time. So what we've done is we've pre-cut one side. We're just going to start on the other side. If we go back to the diagram right at the beginning, there was a triangular section. And what we were doing is we were putting the first section out flat to base, and then we were pulling either section either side into the middle section. So you've got like sort of like a bit of a concave look down the bottom. And what I'm going to be doing is with this section is just pulling out back into the previous section to start with. Okay, and then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pivoting round the head up to my line, and then everything from there is going to be pulled back down onto the weight line. Okay, so I'll get started.
Excellent. So as I said a second ago, I've already completed the underneath and the back of the side. So I'm just going to move this in front of the camera a bit, just watch your footage, Stuart. So you can see this is the shape that Stuart's going to be creating. This is just the wet version, obviously. It hasn't been refined at all. We can see a nice weight line, which Stuart's going to be creating in a second. And this is, as I said, it's triangular graduation, so it's really nice and tight underneath here and building it up. And that's creating this nice solid weight line. And then it's obviously following that shape round to the front. So I've clicked this side out of the way because I need all this to be secure and out of the way for when I do the top. Because as I said, it's totally disconnected.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get started, shall we? Any questions so far? Literally, if you want to know anything, ask away. Also, if you want to close look at anything, let us know and we can bring the heads in front of the camera closer and can give you a more detailed look at what we're doing. So, okay. You okay, Stuart?
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just building up in very, very small sections all the way around to that line first. Okay.
So I'm literally just preparing this section. You can see we've got all this length clothes. It's going to be completely disconnected from underneath. I'm going to be working with a diagonal section starting from the front hairline, coming back, and this is where I'm going to create my guide. Okay. Trying to work as neat as possible. Sections are very, very important. Making sure all the hair is completely out of the way. With this being a creative haircut with disconnections in it as well, it'd be very easy to get lost. So you need to make sure that this is completely out of the way. You can see my section, nice diagonal section there.
I'm just taking really, really small sections so I can see myself working methodically around the head.
So this is all being over-directed to this side, and I'm creating a new weight line here. I'm creating this new solid line. So everything from this section here will be pulled over right here and cuts to a new line just there, okay? Starting off coming from the root, coming underneath as well as on top to make sure that I've got the even tension coming through. Pulling it slightly away from the root and cutting. The reason I'm pulling it slightly away instead of cutting it with my fingers flat to the scalp is because it's a head block, you'll be able to see the roots basically, you'll be able to see the scalp if I don't leave that little section, a little bit of gap. Okay, be very conscious of that body position, making sure I'm completely straight, because if I can't cut this line, need to make sure my shoulders are, my feet are shoulder width apart, and I'm holding myself up correctly. As soon as I start relaxing and dropping a shoulder, then it's going to be really hard to create a straight line. So really focusing on my body position when I'm cutting. How's that graduation going, Stuart?
Yeah, good. I'm just working around quite methodically, just taking nice small sections.
Everybody's all used to working in masks now, which is a new challenge for our industry, especially to wear glasses. Constantly steaming up. It's a shame you can't see our faces because Stuart had a facial, especially today.
As we say from what Darren was saying, be careful of your body position, make sure you're standing in the right position for working. Always cut only half a finger and stop, and then move. Make sure your tension's right, body position, finger angle, scissors.
I'll just clean my position just so I'm going to try and get a clearer view so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. In fact, I'm just going to come to the centre for a second. Okay, so you can see hair here. I'm going to make sure it's nice and straight actually. There we go. Coming it through. Making sure I can see my guide at all times. That's the angle where I'm cutting. Okay. You notice when Stuart and I work, we only cut up to our first knuckle on our hands, only cutting up to about this line here. The tension between the top, from the tip of your finger down to this knuckle, that's the best even part. There's no gaps there basically, so you're going to get a nice consistent tension coming through. Once you start cutting down into the gap in your fingers there, less tension, you're going to struggle to get a stronger line. So quiet. Yeah.
Where do you guys get your inspiration from for your cuts?
Big question that is, Ruth. Should we start with that one?
Yeah, so I get my inspiration from, at the moment, I'm looking into a gentleman called Tim Walker. Tim Walker is quite a famous British photographer, and he does this sort of like Alice in Wonderland sort of shoots and bits and pieces like that. So that's where I get my inspiration at the moment for my haircuts going forward. But we get them from, say, magazines. Darren gets his from films, don't you, Darren?
Yeah, I love films. Yeah, a bit more information about me is before I started hairdressing, I was a projectionist at my local cinema. And as a young man, I was really into films. I'm still really into films. I love films. But films are an untapped resource for creativity. Literally, you can see some, I'm trying to think of examples, more recent ones. You know, Tron was a good film, Tron Legacy, which came out, it's got to be 10 years ago now, but the artistic the hairdressing now is phenomenal, it's great, I love that film. But it has a massive impact on fashion and society. So I use a site called IMDb, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. It's like a film or media archive. And one of the best things about it is it has a coming soon section, so you can see what films are coming out probably the next year, year and a half. And when it comes to actually shooting a film, these things take a long time. So the fashion or how people look in those films would have been decided 2 or 3 years before the film was released. So they have to predict what's going to be in fashion, but they're creating fashion, which is great, I love it. So great examples of how films have changed fashion as we know it, especially for hair. The Great Gatsby came out, it's got to be 10 years ago, and it's, because of that film, barbering came back in fashion, that really slick, Leonardo DiCaprio with that slick barbered look, that changed male grooming. Still, we're still affected by it. It's, you know, barbers are huge right now, and it all stems back to the Great Gatsby film. And another very good example is the Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen, she brought back braids and plaits. So I tend to watch a lot of films, and I go onto IMDb, have a look and see what films are coming out in a year's time. And if it's got any massive stars in it, then I look at the picture, look at the imagery, and then that I know in a year or two time, or whatever the release date is for that film, will have a massive impact on fashion. So I always use that resource, it's great. Yeah. Especially if you're doing shoots and things like that, because when you do a photographic shoot, it can take 6 months to 2 years, depending on who you do it for, before those images are released. You know, some of the bigger campaigns that I've worked on, it has taken 1.5 years from when we did that shoot before those releases, before the images were released. So in order to predict what's going to be in fashion, I use films. Sometimes you can follow different fashion historians. You know, some circles that Stuart and I, or the team have roamed in, we've got to know quite a few fashion historians, and they help big brands predict what's going to be in fashion in the future. So one that we use quite a lot is
Caroline Cox. Caroline Cox, if you ever get the chance to actually go and see her do a talk or anything, she's really inspirational. She's really good, you know. It's a good one to look out for. The V&A, you know, if you're ever in London, to actually go and tap in and have a little walk around there, it's quite inspiring. I'm sure you can do virtual tours, you know, to get some inspiration going.
But that's obviously for our creative work. If we're doing stuff creatively on a shoot, on set, or in salon, that's a great place to get inspiration. But if you're talking more in the salon-friendly techniques on how to do colours, different new cuts and things, YouTube's a good one. Obviously, well, I don't know if many of you guys have heard of the Hero project. Have you heard of the Hero site, where we've worked with Wella to create the Hero platform, which Hero stands for Hairdressing Education Resources Online, and it's more aimed at colleges, of course, but on there it's full of resources, whether it be stuff just to pass your qualification, or say if you're not a fan of balayage and you don't know how to do it, you want to go and have a look at the videos on there, then you can see how the professionals do it and how to execute those techniques that you're not quite sure of. So that's a fantastic resource if you're just looking for inspiration and just to know how to implement techniques.
Yeah. So if I just want to recap on what I've done here. Hope everyone can see that. So we start in the middle, and we take our first section, nice thin section, flat to base, and then 2 sections either side into the middle. So we get like a bit of a concave look. And then what I've done is I've worked going round the head, working up into a line, building up the graduation. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring everything down onto that line.
Nice and simple. It's a great technique that Stuart's doing. I use it all the time in the salon. And it really is the cut that counts when you're talking about techniques that you can use day to day and that allow life to be easier for our clients. That's what it's all about, really, isn't it? You get, it depends on what cutting technique, what style you have. The reason that we use the systems we do is purely because we want our clients to have minimal, or less things to do on a daily basis. So by cutting the strength through the technique, the style is just there. It should be easier for them every day. Any other questions, Ruth?
No, none coming in yet.
Oh.
So what I've done now is I've just split the side into 2 sections. Obviously the front section and the back section. And what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be working on putting the weight line in for the graduation at the back.
So I'm just going to bring my head closer to the camera again, just so you can see what I'm doing. So, I'll just loosen this bad boy up. There she is. Thank you, Dominic. So, you can see now we are getting this weight line, this disconnected weight line. Also on a block, these aren't very forgiving when it comes to the techniques that we're doing. But with a good blow dry, which I'll show you, we've got another look which I will show you, which is the completed look. You can see that we've got this nice weight line coming through here, and how it is naturally starting to form in a nice point at the front. You can see that. So continuing backwards, bringing everything to this weight line here. Do exactly the same on this side, and this is going to create this lovely point into the front.
Perfect.
I agree.
Mm.
That's not too coffee. So now's the time for all you hairdressers out there to start practicing again. I'm sure you've been doing your friends and family at home on the slide, but getting ready for our clients again. It's a big challenge. It's hard because you don't realise how much what we do is muscle memory, whether it be just standing in the salon, bending over, doing shampooing hair, or just blow drying. A lot of people have forgotten how to do it. So this is the time now to start getting the block out now, start practicing on your friends and family, and just trying to get back. We've got a month left. Is it a month now? We've got a month until we are back on form. So we need to start practicing. Okay.
Stuart, do you want to bring your block slightly further forward just so we can see what you're cutting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what we're doing is we are coming through and we are just going onto the line. Building up that way line, which is quite nice. And then everything from the back is brought down onto that line. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm still working on this side panel, nearly to the back now. Taking really fine sections, literally as thin as my comb. I want to make sure that the tension is equal all the way, all the hairs in the perfect position. It just saves me hassle later. So just taking that time, combing it through, making sure I can see that guide. Let's see if I can spin this around so you guys can see that.
Fab.
Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Like so. Brilliant. So I'm also using an Asian style of cutting, which Stuart and I flip between it. Stuart uses it quite a lot, but I flip between depending on what position I'm cutting in. But basically what this means is a way of preventing repetitive strain on your wrists. So, let me just get nice and close to the camera so you can see. So obviously, our normal way of cutting is like this. But if you cut like this, it takes all the pressure off your wrist. So you just flip it over. So from this to this, and you cut in this way, using your thumb. You still get a nice clean line, but it's just a way of looking after ourselves, really. Because, unfortunately, the thing with the industry is there's not many hairdressers who start when they're 16 and they leave school, who are still on the shop floor cutting when they're 55 or 60. And it's because it takes a toll on your body. So when Stuart and I, we talk about body positions a lot in our seminars, making sure that we're standing correctly, balancing our weight on both of our feet, and cutting, how we cut, making sure that we're having as little pressure at all on our body. This allows us to keep on cutting.
How long are your appointments in the salon for? If you're doing somebody, say every 6 weeks, how long roughly do you take for your cuts?
Well, it depends on the hair. I usually work for hour appointments, but I changed that actually when we came back into the salons after the first lockdown. I changed it to an hour and a half, just to make sure I have enough time to clean and make sure everyone's safe. But I tend to work off hour appointments in the salon. I feel I need that time in order to make sure that it's a technical haircut is what my clients in the money's worth, basically. So I find that I can do that in an hour if I'm working normally, but at the moment with the way things are going, I'm working on an hour and a half appointments just to make sure that everyone's safe. What about you, Stuart? What do you use?
Yeah, an hour and a half, at least an hour on a haircut, and then, as you say, because we're in different times now, it takes a little bit longer.
Is that the same as the rest of the team as well? Do you all work on the same timings?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I know some salons do 45-minute appointments as well, but I just want to take a bit longer and make sure those cuts are perfect. But I charge for it. I charge for my time, not for a haircut. I charge for my time. So if it's a more technical haircut, I'm going to create a haircut. It's going to take an hour and a half or 2 hours. I want to spend as much time as I can, but I will charge for that time. So I usually work off around 55 to 60 pounds an hour. So it depends on how long it takes me. Yeah, I think sometimes, especially with children and things like that, some doing kids cuts and stuff, some take you 15 minutes, some take you 40 minutes, depending on the age. So I started charging for my time around there, basically. It just makes it a bit simpler. For me, anyway. Any other questions?
No, not yet. Just where are you at now? Probably for Stuart, where are you at now?
Where are you now, Stuart? Tell us where you are.
So I'm still working up one side, building up the weight. As you can see, just cutting it nice and straight across, and then going into my angle triangular sections. straight the way down, which is quite good. Just building up my graduation through the back at the moment.
I have completed one side. So now you can see, obviously it's wet, so you see a bit more translucent the hair is, but you can see this weight line, and you can see it's a little bit thin here. It's only because it's wet though. Once this is dry, you're not going to see that lighter line there. But we've created that new weight line, and then it naturally, so this is just by pulling it, just a nice square line out here, and that comes into a nice point at the front.
Fab.
So now for the other side, so I'm making sure that all this hair is out of the way because I don't want to get mixed at all.
Are you going to use that as a guide at all? The guide.
It's all about the sectioning, to tell you the truth. Tell you the truth. It's all about sectioning. So obviously taking that halo section, that needs to be completely balanced, and also your centre parting needs to be completely balanced as well. So as long as I know where I held myself, so literally just below the section, just give it that little bit of leeway so I'm not going to see the scalp. So that's where it is. I'm literally going to use the sectioning patterns to determine exactly where I'm cutting.
Okay.
I'm just cross-checking at the moment, just to make sure I'm nice and balanced.
Very important, cross-checking. I love a bit of cross-checking, me. One of my favourite things. Got to check that cross, man. So if there's people out there who don't cross-check, usually whichever way you cut, whichever way you take your section, once you've completed that section, you take a section in the opposite direction, cross through the line of which you cut, and you can see, making sure your direction's correct. And yeah, I love doing it. I love doing that cross-checking. That sounds really weird, but obviously, if there's more than a couple of millimeters out of place, a couple of mil or a millimeter or two, you can literally just dust it off, and that's what I call it, dusted. If there's any more, you've gone wrong in your section. You've too much elevation, too little elevation, or something's happened there. So it's just a case of going back through and correcting it. Striving for perfection. That's what we're doing. It's a journey. Remember, folks, we're on a journey together. I'm sure you need to talk, because otherwise I'm going to start talking rubbish.
I think, yeah, so just getting to grips with our courses that we deliver. We deliver 3 courses, as we've spoken a little bit about. So the first course that we do is our M courses, which is our fundamental foundations. And then we go on from that, we go on to something called our W course, which is salon contemporary, which is salon friendly courses. And then we go on to MW, which is more of our show sort of work and more avant-garde courses, which is quite good. And it's always good to go back to, always go back to the beginning and revisit the foundations all the time, just to keep it quite strong. So I'm just coming through, just cross-checking the back now again. We're going to, do you want to talk a little bit more about the Hero project, Darren?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned the Hero project, when we talk about inspiration, and if I want to get stuff, or gain knowledge about things I do in the salon, I mentioned balayage as an example. Then I mentioned the Hero project. So the Hero project, it's an idea that we had probably just over a year ago now. And we've been working with Wella very, very closely throughout the whole of lockdown since the beginning of last year to create this platform, this Hero platform. And it's just great for education. We are aiming to have everything you need, or every stylist needs, whether it be if you're starting your journey at college or as an apprentice and trying to get all the knowledge for your qualification, we're aiming to have everything you need to be an accomplished, qualified hairdresser on this site. This platform is growing all the time, literally week on week, month on month. New content is being added. So if you're not on it or you don't have a look, sign up. It's free. It is free, literally. All the information you need. Stick up. All the info you need, whether it be, as I said, I use that as an example, but if you're looking for our cuts, all of our foundation cuts, those 9 cuts that we say, that I mentioned earlier, they're on there. Everything you need to be an accomplished hairdresser, to work in a salon, all the info is on there. It should be there, making it easy for you. Wella are a huge part of it, and they are helping with new content. They are doing webinars. We'll be touring the country. It's a big deal, this hair product. Hopefully it's going to change how we teach across the whole of the UK. And we're also getting people from globally getting into other countries wanting to get involved in it as well, which is really cool.
So this question come in, sorry. I thought you'd...
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of shoots or are you mainly salon based?
We do a mix of, how my diary usually works is Wednesday to Saturday, I'm in the salon doing my clients. And then at the beginning of the week, we're either teaching, and we are a global education company. So we are active all over the world doing what we're doing for you guys now. So it's either we're either teaching at the beginning of the week or we're on shoots as well. So we're doing a good mix of both, which is really important to me because, I don't want to say I get bored easily, but I like to explore every aspect of this industry, and I feel I'm more of a accomplished stylist if I'm doing more different things through my career. So it's a good mix of both. Yes, we do a lot of shoots, but I'm doing my clients. I believe that I need to do my clients in order to be justified to stand up in front of you guys and say, this is how to do it. If I'm not doing clients, I don't think I have the right to tell you that. So yes, I do clients for half the week and I'm teaching or on shoots for the other half of the week. And that's how I stay balanced.
And as Darren said before, it probably takes to do a shoot or something like that, you're planning at least 6 months to a year in advance of that shoot, just to make sure that everything's in place.
I do enjoy my shoots, though, I have to say. I enjoy being on the shoot. Whether it be for our own, because we release collections quite regularly, which is great. If you want to go to our website, McDonaldWaterfall.com, you can see some of our collections on there. And I love kind of the ideas and the ethos behind it. And I tend not to work just on what's in fashion at the moment. Yes, that's in there, that's in the pot, that's in the mix of what I'm trying to create. But I want to look deeper. I want to get inspired by art, by culture, by films and media. And we've had collections based on magazines, we have collections based on movies, we've had collections based on art movements. And I really like researching and looking into, find something that interests me, going really deep and a bit obsessive into looking into why that happened. For instance, we did a shoot called Preem. This has got to be 5 years ago, Stuart? Yeah, Preem, Gents collection. And Stuart and I, we were teaching in Poland, weren't we? Warsaw. And we were teaching at a hotel. In the centre of the city, it was a beautiful big hotel, it was huge. And in the room that we were teaching in the corner, it had a plaque. And it was some black and white photos from the early 1900s. And it was an art exhibition. And it was a guy called Kazimir Malevich, I think his name was. And he was a very experimental artist. And at that point in time, that was quite frowned upon. And especially in that part of the world. Although he was born in Poland, he spent most of his time in Russia. So when things weren't going too well over there, they confiscated his work, and this one exhibition he did to show off his work was in the room that we were teaching in. And then after that, he went on a tour, but before the tour actually had time to start, he got imprisoned and had his work, all his art taken off him. But I think his most famous one was the black square, and it's just a white canvas with a black square. That's all it is. But he was the first person to do it, and no one had thought to do it before, and that's why it's important, that's why it's special, because he was taking another step creatively. So we did this collection called Preem, with gents, where we used their hair to create different shapes. So there was a big yellow one, there was a big black circle, and it was all white background with white outfits, and so these shapes as a silhouette just stood out, and we tried to replicate his art as much as possible. So it's not just based on what's fashionable, we are looking deeper and trying to create something about a movement. Yeah, it's quite exciting, quite cool. See, I'm waffling.
So now I'm working on the front section, just bringing that in. I'm cutting my lining first, and then I'm going to elevate slightly through the sides.
What kind of things do you find that before the lockdown that you were doing more of in the salon? So did you notice that there was more long hair or short hair coming in?
There's obviously the last couple of years there's been a lot of long hair, a lot of people hanging on to their hair. I guess with balayage and ombres being fashionable colour-wise, that lends itself to longer hair. So yes, we have quite a bit of longer hair coming in, but to be honest, there's the salon where I'm based, which is up in the Midlands on the edge of the Peak District. It's an old farmhouse converted into a salon, and people know me around the area for doing short geometric shapes. That's what I've been known for a long time now. So I have a good following of people who like strong, short geometric shapes, whether it be crops, pixie cuts, bobs, things like that. So I think that's coming back into fashion now. I think there's definitely been, I think, murmurs in the industry of the 90s coming back, where the cut really counts. Obviously the 80s had a massive impact on fashion, and big hair movement was everything. But then when the 90s came, it was the opposite. It was the opposite reaction. It was all more natural, and the cut made a massive difference. And I think that the 90s is coming back now. I think that sort of look, that sort of natural hair, natural waves, natural texture, and that cut is starting to come through now. But I was seeing echoes of that, should I say, in the industry a year ago. Stuart and I, the last big seminar we did was it going to be here next week, is it? New York?
Yeah, it was New York.
And you could definitely tell over there, there was this 90s sort of grunge cut look coming back in, and it was all about just natural hair, natural texture, which I really like. I like using natural texture a lot, as much as I can really. And I think, especially with the new Wella we do range, I can see, because that's all about looking after the environment, basically. So I think there's going to be a place in fashion, especially moving forward, where people are going to realise that hairdryers dryers are rubbish for the environment. So people want to have natural hair and embrace their natural texture. So the cuts and the right products, are going to be extremely important to achieve this look. So definitely that 90s look, really, I think, is going to be really big over the next couple of months. What do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, I think going back to what Darren was saying about curly, wavy hair, I really enjoy working with really curly afro to wavy hair, because I think you can play with so many different shapes and different textures. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing to play with. And as Darren said, with regards to the new products coming out and being more natural, so it's all about wearing the hair again, isn't it?
Definitely.
Cool.
Cut that counts. Does that answer your question, Ruth?
Yes, thank you. Is there any products that you have so you say with you really like curly hair, is there any texture of product that you quite like working with? So is it like a spray or a balm, or do you what kind of things do you like to work into curly hair to basically be able to manipulate it and get that beautiful curl, as opposed to it looking like fluffy or frizzy? What would your texture of product be?
Yeah, I really like the Wella natural curl. It's a little hero product of mine. I use quite a lot, and I like the curl to be quite natural, and for it to do its own thing really, compared to quite a strong product going into the hair. I use something called Curl Form, which is a great product as well. It's got conditioner in it. But yeah, there's some really good, strong products out there to use, especially in the Wella range, you know.
So things that are more kind of moisture based and condition based, like have like elements of moisture and like a light conditioner in them for the curly hair, as opposed to maybe something which is a little bit heavier working.
100%, yeah, definitely.
But I like a bit of both, to be honest with you. When I'm doing working with natural texture, I think moisture is extremely important, as Stuart was saying, those products with a conditioner base, to get that healthy, soft shine. But then to get that texture I want, like a sugar lift sort of product, like a Wella sugar lift or Sebastian texture maker, something to get that bit of grip, to get the movement and the height of the texture that I like. But I would definitely rather use the products to put that in there instead of using heat and hair dryers to build up the texture.
Yeah. I think that's quite key, isn't it? Because I know a lot of people that have got curly hair, and when they don't wash it too frequently, and when they do, they say it's just a bit crazy. It just goes too big and too soft, and it can be a bit uncontrollable. So I think it's a combination. I think moisture is essential because obviously it lacks moisture, but to have something else in there as well just helps to create that kind of second day feel to the hair. Definitely. Not so it's greasy, but so it has that second day feel, so it's a little bit more manageable. Definitely.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's me being a guy, but it's because I have got long hair. Not I've got longish hair, but I've got long hair to learn that growing up. So I rely on a lot of my clients or friends to tell me about what works well with their hair and experiment on them. And you know, an old friend of mine, she had really curly hair, and she never shampooed it. She always conditioned it, always washed it, but it was very rare she shampooed it, and it was very rare she actually combed it because it just didn't suit her hair. And you have methods like the curly girl method and things like that, which she explored, and it works. So if you have curly hair, you need to listen to your stylist about the products to use, because I've had so many clients over the years who have come to me and they have naturally curly hair, but have never been able to handle it, never been able to work with it, and they've hated their curly hair. And because they're just doing the wrong thing, whether how it is they're drying it, they're not using diffusers if they are drying it, or they're not using the right products, those nourishing products to embrace that curl. So you need to listen to a stylist when it comes to that sort of stuff to make sure that you are creating the right look, because otherwise it's just going to drive you crazy. And that's when you get people who are over straightening it because they're not embracing their natural texture. Okay, well, I've completed the top section. You can see, obviously it's still wet, but you can see how this is naturally got this weight line across here, and it's naturally fallen into a point at the front. Obviously, we're not going to be doing any drying today. So, just like Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. Thank you. Exactly the same technique. This is, I've refined the perimeter a little bit, not too much, but I've saved a bit for the top, basically. So I'm going to just harden up this line so you can see what we're doing. I'm going to change my scissor because we have our own scissors, basically. We have our MW scissor collection. I was using our number 2s, which is a bit of a longer, I'd say longer blades, 5.5. But it's a bit of a chunkier blade in order to get through the wet sections, but then I always use a smaller blade for refining. Oh, that's not too bad. So, let the hair fall naturally. I'm going to use my finger to steady the blade, like so, to make sure it's going to be nice and it's not going anywhere. I'm just taking little bits off at a time. Obviously, this is easy with a mirror, because whether you know or not, if you're too close to something, you can't see it very well. I know it sounds crazy. You can't pick up the detail or the strength in a shape when you're too close to it. You need to use a mirror to see it from a distance, and you can see the whole thing, and you can brace the look. So, just chipping away a little bit at a time.
That's a lovely shot.
Thank you very much. Like so. So, as we were saying, this is just taking what Stuart's doing just to another level, really. But it's the same technique to what Stuart's doing. It's just stepping it up and making it creative. So this is where we find a lot of hairdressers when we go to salons and teach. Then we can teach them the basics, but then they get really nervous when it's then using the foundations to do something creative. They think there's a secret ingredient, there's something that they haven't got in order to make it a creative look. When it's not, it's just using all those classic shapes, the knowledge that you have, and just twisting it slightly, just embracing those techniques and just trying something different with them. There is no secret ingredient. There's no secret ingredient. Wise words from Kung Fu Panda. Okay. You okay, Stuart?
Yep. So I've finished my side now, so I'm just going to recap quickly in a minute.
Once I'm out of the way, is that what you're going to say?
Darren's done that. I will just talk you through what I've done again. Is there any questions at all?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So we're going to be finishing up in the next few minutes.
Perfect.
We'll hand over to Dennis, who's one of our global ambassadors, who's going to take you through another look. So this is shape starting to come together now. It's nice.
How long would you normally take to refine things when you're, you know how you say that you refine them once you've cut your shape in, and then you refine once you've dried? How long on average does it take for you to do for a normal cut?
In the salons, I'll probably say it's spend the same amount of time as I'm doing on the wet hair as I do on the dry hair. It's the best way to put it, I probably think it's the stuff you do on the dry hair, the refining, the personalising is what takes a good haircut into a great haircut. It's what makes it fit an individual. Yes, we have our classic techniques, which allows us to build a fundamental shape, but then it's the stuff you do on the dry to make it, to personalise it and to fit that specific client that takes it to that other level. And I've worked with salons in the past that they don't really do much when it comes to refining on dry hair, unless it's a fringe or something. But then once you go through and you show the benefits of what and how that takes a haircut, which is already, a good haircut, up to another level just by refining it and making sure that it fits that person's bone structures nicely, which you all do when it's dry. That's really important. So I think, well, as important as the wet cut. Do you agree, Stuart?
100%. So I'm just going to talk you through what I've done quickly. So we started at the back again. We start in the middle. We take our first section, we cut that flat to base, and then we take the two sections either side, pull it into the middle, so we get a sort of a concave look, and then we work round the head up to our weight line, and then we're pulling everything down onto that line. Okay, and I'm just going to do a little bit of refining.
I'm just going to show you a little tip. Hairspray. I love a bit of hairspray, I do. Can't beat a bit of hairspray. Using the Mystify Me light, just so it has a bit of movement to it. But here's a little tip when we do seminars and shoots. Obviously, you just get some little flyaway hairs. I don't know if you can see that on there very well. Just tiny little flyaways. And people use different methods, whether they use their hands to smooth them over. But I find face brush or neck brush, we're going to call it, as a fantastic tool to get rid of these little flyaways. And it's a case of blast it on, and then literally don't be afraid to put you can put, a fair bit of pressure on there. And this gets the hair like glass. This is just a little tip we use on the shoots. Glide it over. And that just holds down all the little flyaways and gets that shape solidified basically. Oh, nice shine on there, nice line. Lovely.
Very neat, fab.
Just going to use a little bit of glamour mist. Do exactly the same as what Darren's done. Just get a little. Just take away all the little glamour bits.
So Glam Mist is more of your shine spray, whereas Darren was using something like the hairspray to give a bit more control.
Hold, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank you. Perfect.
So, M from W. Taking the classic technique, which Stuart's executed, of that triangular graduation starting around the back. And I've just taken it, it's sort of disconnected at the top and put this new line, this disconnected panel across the top. Nice sort of sharp weight line coming into a nice point at the front. So, foundation, creative. Same techniques, easy as that.
Thank you very much for your time. We're going to have a little short, quick video, and then we're going to take you over and introduce you to Dennis.
So just once again, just to confirm, if you're wanting any of the section patterns for these two cuts, message us on Instagram and we will send them over. Thanks guys, let's run that video, shall we?
Thanks a lot, see you later, bye.
Thank you.
Is the music of the video?
Hi, Dennis.
And I'm used to use Mac, so I'm just going to stay off, otherwise the whole thing is just going to shut off. Yeah. Hello guys, my name is Dennis. I'm actually part of the team, MW team, which I actually joined last year. Before that, I used to live in Asia, so I'm working on a project, also in education. And because of this, let's call this pandemic, I had to return, and in the meantime, I'm joined actually the MW team, and they are all right guys, I have to say. Yeah. Okay. So this is a very, very short, brief introduction of me. I want to save the time as much as possible that I can explain a little bit about the haircut. If you have any questions about me and my career path, you can always ask me. During the haircut as well, if there is something you don't understand, please do stop me and ask any question that I can answer, right? So first of all, I want to introduce you to my lovely model, Mila. Mila has blonde hair. She's got quite medium to thick density. And what I'm going to do, I will work today on a kind of a mid-length haircut, which is going to be a little bit more commercial. It's more of a softer look. So in this webinar, you're going to have 3, as in a very classic foundation, a very creative haircut on a quite solid lines, and then you're going to see something creative, which is a bit more, as we say, contemporary classic. Yeah. Now, how I actually work, of course, we have all different backgrounds, but we kind of speak the same language. So I'm going to divide my haircuts in different zones as well. And the way how I work, I mostly don't section off all the sectioning patterns beforehand. I'm working with, because when you use this connection, which I'm going to use today, one of the most important rules is actually the placement of your sectioning patterns. So the placement actually of your sectioning patterns will actually determine the weight of your internal shape. Yeah. And what I do beforehand, I just cut. So the whole haircut is actually 4 zones. Yeah. So zone number 1 is actually just above the occipital bone. Yeah. And in this zone, I actually just cut a classic graduation. Yeah. So something that Stuart did. Yeah. Now a second zone, which I'm going to be working on straight away. The second zone is actually from ear to ear. And the back above the occipital bone is zone number 2. Yeah. And then a third zone will be on this side. This will be the side, zone number 3. And then on the other side, I've got then zone number 4. But zone number 4 will actually subdivide it in another 3 zones. Yeah. And each zone, all the lengths will not technically connect with each other. Yeah. Okay. So far, are there any questions?
Who does your hair?
No questions. Okay.
No, not yet.
All right, cool. Because I had to wait a bit. The hair is a bit wet, it's a bit dried up a bit. You need to re-damp the hair. Damping the hair is very, very important during the haircut process, as you can work a lot cleaner. Same on the other side. There we go. So again, the placement of your sectioning patterns, very, very important. Now, what I'm going to do is section off from ear to ear, and a very important rule is actually the rounding of the head shape and not so much the crown. Through my experience of teaching, if I ask my students, can you section off from ear to ear? What they actually mostly do, they're listening at the crown area. So they look at the crown, and from the crown area, they go to the ear, and then the same on the other side. But basically what happened is actually the hair just above the crown area still belongs to the back. Yeah. So how I actually section off from ear to ear, I'm actually looking at the rounding of the head shape. And the rounding of the head shape has a highest point. So that highest point is actually a gravity point. Yeah. So anything below that point belongs to the front, anything behind the pond belongs to the back. Yeah. And the only way to see that is that comb the hair very, very flat. And comb the hair in the direction of where you want to have your sectioning pattern. Yeah. If you want a diagonal sectioning, you comb the hair diagonal first before you do your sectioning. Yeah? All right. So from here to the ear straight vertical section. Come back to the back. So this is zone number 2, and the same on the other side belongs to zone number 2. There you go. So working this way gives you a little bit more freedom in your plan during the haircut. So in the salon, I don't work in the salon, but I do have some clients as well, of course. And when I'm cutting clients, mostly because of saving time as well, I do not pre-section my patterns. Yeah? I section my patterns off along the haircut. And we're giving this little freedom, you can change your basic plan into a little side plan. So this is zone number 2. So a section off from ear to ear. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to split this in the middle. Yeah. And working in shapes. So you see, because of the different lengths everywhere that's going to be, all the lengths are going to actually diffuse with each other when the hair falls in a natural fall. So you won't really see the disconnection, but it will have the function. So this is actually creating texture in the haircut without using thinning scissors. Yeah. Is there something wrong with thinning scissors? Absolutely not. I think it's a great tool. Only I don't know how to use it. So if you give a pair of thinning scissors in the wrong hands, things can go massively wrong, of course. Yeah. But no, thinning scissors are a very good tool if you know how to use them. Now, what I'm going to do now, I will take a first vertical section in the side, and then I'll cut a new guideline which not connects at all with the length underneath. Yeah. This is it. We're going to pocket. I'm going to go a little bit more down. There you go. You still see? Yeah. All right. Okay. So new section. Now what I'm actually doing now, I'm creating a vertical shape. One of the very important things of creating shapes vertically or horizontally is actually, or what I mean by building up weight or removing weight, as in layering or graduation, is actually looking at the root area. So while you're combing the hair, the most focus will be at the root area to see how your elevation is in this area. If that is taking down below your cutting section, you will build up weight. If it is on base on the cutting section, you will remove weight. Yeah? Okay, so that falls actually over the external shape underneath. Okay, so I'm going in pivoting sections and take a next section from that exactly same point and comb away the hair, which I don't need. There you go. I'll take a little bit from that previous section, comb that away. So your section is always very clearly that you see where you need to pull it to. Yeah? Every section will be on base. So on base means like straight out the head, horizontally. There you go. Do you have any questions, guys? Because
What size scissors are you using?
I'm using 5.0, yeah, 5 inch. Yeah. Why? You think
They
it's
just look bigger than that.
He's very little.
it's
No,
me? I'm small. I am small. So it balances out a little bit. Yeah.
Do you always use that size scissor?
Yeah, I always use 4.5 or 5. I love barbering very, very, very much. Yeah, but I have never ever used a pair of clippers. Same, it's an amazing tool. Every 2-3 weeks, if there is no pandemic, I go to the barber shop, and I always like when how they actually can handle a pair of clippers. So I'm doing everything by scissor, maybe because of my heritage a little bit. But there I do use a 6-inch scissor. When I'm doing scissor over comb, it's better to use a bigger blade to avoid the internal lines you're actually cutting into.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm doing ladies' hair or even men's hair, on my hair, I mostly use my little black scissor, which is a 5-inch. Why is this? Well, because I have control over what I do. So the bit of the scissor you actually use the tip until halfway the scissor. This bit you never really use actually at the end, unless you, of course, you start slicing. And the distance between my hands and the parts that I'm using is very, very short. So I've got lots of control over what I'm doing. If I'm using 6-inch scissors on something non-scissor over comb, the distance is very, very far. So it's actually standing on one leg. You know? It's just to have a more control over what you're doing. There you go. So you see by combing this through now, the weight is removed, yeah, and the length that's actually falling over the graduation underneath. Yeah.
Yep.
But internally, you do not see anything of disconnection. Now, from that same point again, pivoting around, combing the hair away what you don't need, and trying always to comb a guideline, so your guideline is clearly visible. This is in terms for, not in this case, because every section is actually on base, so you will create a horizontal round shape as well, yeah. But when you need to do over direction, it's always very helpful to comb away the previous section, what you don't need. So then you see exactly where you need to pull it to or direct it to. This is just to have a consistency in your over direction, or actually elevation if you work horizontally. It helps also with your balance. Now another tip, if you cut actually, because it is this side that I'm cutting, this side is my guideline, so you can comb the hair up so you to grab it, but your last comb, because this side needs to be on base, it's very helpful to actually comb from this side out, so you pull this actually, or push this actually on this side to the base. And you just follow your guideline. Now again, because of my sections being on base, it will be horizontally round, yeah. But it needs to be, I need to follow the head shape vertically as well. So that's why when I'm combing the hair, I'm really watching my roots, so I don't pull the hair here too much down. It needs to be on the base, and when I'm happy with that, then I go up and cut it off. Otherwise you cut your fingers, of course, yeah. There you go. So you see the kind of shape you kind of create. It's a bit of a beveled shape that falls over, but it's not connected whatsoever with the underneath. So everything understand, guys, so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Again, from that same point, coming down, combing away the hair you don't need. And from that point, this is the guideline, combing away the hair that I don't need. There you go. Now it is this side that we're cutting, so I can grab the hair. And my last comb will be on this side, so I push it to that base. There you go. And I stop. Now I stop here already. I don't cut it all off because I want to create actually a round shape. Yeah, I'll show you that way. So I want to create a round shape. Now if I, for instance, if I comb the hair and I cut this all off, when you're looking at the root area, this is actually on the base, but this is pulled down. So when that hair then falls in a natural fall, you will build up weight. So that's why it's very important when you comb the hair out, you watch your roots, and you follow the head shape with your fingers parallel. There you go.
Does the cutting vary much from what you're doing now to what you were doing when you were in Asia? Is there a lot of difference when you were out there to like the market here, if you like?
Yes, it is. I was based in Singapore for 2 years. But I was just based in Singapore. Most of my projects was in different countries, and especially in Vietnam as well, which I did many hair tours. And I lived in South Korea as well for 2 years. So I lived in Seoul, did the same, also many projects abroad. But again, every country is so different. There's lots of long hair in Asia. There are lots of it. Everyone think when you see the Asian market, as in all those very quirky haircuts, this is only like 5% of Asia have this.
Wow.
That 5%, yeah, is coming on the internet, and everyone thinks it's only that. But the hair industry in Asia is all about beauty, though, especially in South Korea. South Korea, lots of long hair and mainly based on perming the hair.
Right.
So there's lots of styling of the hair. And then in Taiwan, there are a little bit more, let's say, geometric. When you see, I've been the judge of the Trend Vision Awards in 2015 and 2016 in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see those events, then you got very creative haircuts. But that's about the only country where this can be possible, actually. Taiwan.
Wow.
So it's a pleasure to go there. But yeah, very much inspired by Asia, of course, and not only of the hair. I found my inspiration in food as well,
Mm-hmm.
and in music. So now we're all waiting for our vaccine so we can go back. I'm very lucky to be in the UK because we're going to be one of the first in Europe. If everything goes well. And it still falls over with slightly little bits, which you can actually after the blow dry, you can actually refine this in your external shape. You can just leave them out, so it stays like a bit soft. There you go, from that same point still, all the way pivoting around, taking the hair out, looking at the root area, making sure, because it's this side that we're combing, that my last comb will be on this side. So I push it to the base, watching my guideline. I stop cutting because I'm pulling the hair here already down, I see. So again, my view is on the root area, watching up, and stop, and then again, going up. Stuart or Darren, you guys have any questions when I'm doing the haircut?
Not a moment. Sure. What kind of comb are you using there, Dennis?
I'm using a magic comb.
Magic
A
comb.
magic comb, yeah.
Could you tell everyone a little bit about the comb?
Yeah, of course. Tools in general is very, very personal. Like the question you asked me like before, as in what kind of scissors you use. I've been brought up with a small pair of scissors. Many people, they start like cutting hair with 6-inch or even bigger scissor. And this counts the same with the comb. So a very popular comb is like the Wise Park comb, which I personally never really used because I think it's a bit too harsh. This comb is called the Sessibone comb. So the Sessibone comb is a classic comb, a very old comb since the 80s already. It's a Japanese comb, and this comb was used at Vidal Sassoon, and now you can just buy it there as well. But back in the 80s, only creative directors were allowed to use that comb. I really like it. It's very long lasting, actually. It's quite soft in working as well, quite bendable. Bendable is very important when you want to visualize your outlines before you're cutting. The Wise Park combs are a bit more fragile. By doing this, it will break. But again, tools are very, very personal to each individual, what they like to use, of course. Yeah. Again, you can clearly see it is not connected with the underneath. Now you see as well in the crown area, I do use the wide side of my comb to lower the tension, and especially in the root area. There we go. Pivoting all the way around. I take a bit of my previous section that I don't need. So each section is clearly visible where I need to pull it to, or push it to in this case. Again. Again, so the last comb on this side.
Where did your inspiration come for this haircut, Dennis?
This haircut, because there's all different zones actually. There's all different zones, and in each zone it will be a different length. Yeah? So to talk a little bit about Belgium. I don't live there anymore already for like the last 13, 14 years, but I'm still proud that I'm in Belgium, of course. And Belgium in the fashion world was very, very important. Definitely in the 1980s, because in the 1980s we had our 6 designers. You can look this up on the internet. They're called the Antwerp 6, and one of the designers, which actually didn't belong to the Antwerp 6, a very, very important one, is a designer called Martin Margiela. And Martin Margiela was actually one of the first one ever who deconstructed clothes. So actually deconstructing clothes is, like for instance, this shirt, I tear the shirt all apart, and then I make a new shirt, but the pieces will be all different. So my sleeve will be maybe at the back or something. And this is what I'm actually doing with this haircut. So I take a fully classic haircut, I take all the pieces, the zones out of each other, and then I place it or replace it, restructure it. So my inspiration, because there is so many zones with different lengths, would be the deconstruct Belgian heritage.
Thank you.
Yeah. Many of my haircuts are based on lots of architecture as well, of course. Especially in Japan, because I lived in South Korea and I went monthly to Japan. When you live in Seoul, you fly to Osaka, is only a 1 hour flight, 1.5 hour flight. And there is one of my favorite architects in Japan, is Tadao Ando, who is mainly inspired by Le Corbusier. So it's all about quite minimal feel to it. But again, inspiration is like literally everywhere, on each corner. Especially with now living back in London, even in the lockdown, I still have like my daily walks outside. And the street image you see in London, and I travel a lot, you don't find anywhere else. I think London is such a creative melting pot of so many cultures and so many different people in, and especially now with the fashion school there as well. You can find on any corner the inspiration. Okay, that's the last section, combing it through. Now the last comb over here. There you go. So you see as well, body position is one of the very important parts during a haircut, which Stuart actually explained a little bit as well. And you saw that I'm actually cutting this whole side on one side. The reason why is that so many people, they do one side here, and then for the other side, they would stand on this side. But if I would stand on this side, yeah, and I cut actually a round shape, which is start from here, my back would be completely like disjointed almost. Yeah. When I'm standing here for this whole side, yeah, my back would be very, very straight. So that's why I don't see my cutting section, because it's this side that I'm cutting. I only see my guideline, but that's why I need to push forward my cutting section to the base. So that's for zone 2. Now always look what you're creating during the haircut. So you can clearly see, I'm tilting the head a bit. It looks like a kind of a layered graduation, but it is layered and it's literally not connected whatsoever with the bottom section, zone number 1. So now I'm sorry.
It looks lovely already.
Looks lovely, thank you. That's because Mila has amazing hair. There's a very good body head. I do love working on block heads very, very much. Because you can actually work on your technique, but you need to have a good block head for that. Yeah. All right. This is zone number 2. What I'm going to do, I don't want to comb into zone 2 or 1, so I'm going to conceal those section and pattern. There you go. So you see as well how I section off things. I'm mostly not twisting the hair. One of the reasons why I'm not doing this is when I'm grooming the hair flat to the direction where I want it, I have a more clearer overview during my haircut in terms of elevation or expanded shapes. Do you guys know what an expanded shape is? Because this is very important. So an expanded shape is basically what you're building out when the hair is all out. You put your fingers in the socket and your hair stands all out. And this is actually an expanded shape. So the surface of that fin, the silhouette of that shape, is what we call the expanded shape. And by understanding an expanded shape, you can actually build up weight or actually remove weight by going around. Okay, for zone number 1, 2, 3. So we've got a natural side parting on this side here, which we will not touch that. There you go. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a complete new length. There you go. I need a bit of water.
Dennis, do you always use water to just spray down with, or do you use products when you're cutting hair as well?
Yeah, I dilute it. So I use water, but I always put either a little bit of conditioner or any cutting lotion. Now for this, I'm using this as well. This is like the same My Hero product. Why is this? And I'm using this while I'm actually cutting hair as well. And especially blockheads. Yeah? So by doing this, you give it a little film over the hair. And the difference between actually using water or a conditioning spray is one, you don't need to rinse out conditioning sprays. And because the molecules are very, very, very small, the water stays damp a little bit longer than actually you only use water. But sometimes I put some little bit with water in my Muji bottle. And that helps. Okay. Number one. This is the first section, completely not connected. Now, what length I'm going to do? Well, you see that way. If you take the length, what you want to achieve from length, so I want to have here, so I need to bear this in mind and actually start from that point and following the head shape all the way through. Again, it is a vertical round shape. There you go. This is the side. Now watch. Now, before you go on to your second section, look at the length, what you have created. And it's more or less the same as here. Yeah. All right. And the second section is parallel, vertical next to the first one at the sides. There you go. And I take a little bit from the previous section that I just have been cut. And I comb this away. Yeah. So this is a very good example now of always combing away the hair you don't need. So what I have now is on this side, I have my cutting section, and on this side, I have my guideline, which is my previous section. By combing away each time the hair you don't need, then I know exactly where I need to push it to. Because sometimes when you don't comb away and you over-direct maybe too far, if you want to create a horizontal shape which is square, by pulling it too much, it will go triangle, of course. So it's just to have consistency in your over direction, and helps also with your balance actually if you do the same on the other side. So now again, I'm pushing it forward. See, my back is fairly straight because I'm standing on the right side. For the right-handed people on this side, you will always stand in front of your client. I know in some countries it's not possible, like in Japan it is not possible to do that. You cannot do this. You're not allowed because it's very rude by standing in front of your client. So in Japan is everything you need to stand behind your client, whatever you do. So yeah, different countries, different habits. I'm sure in the UK there's many habits as well, or not.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, definitely. There you go. I'm combing away half of the section that I just cut, which I will use as a guideline for the next section. There you go. It jumps from, yeah. There you go, exactly the same. So you see, I'm not pulling it over my section because I comb away each time what I have cut previously. Yeah. And it's the same with this side. Any questions so far, guys?
No.
There you go. Do I need to turn the head in a certain position where you're going to watch when you see it better, or?
No, it's all good. I can see you.
Can see it?
Yeah.
See my over direction. I'm not pulling it too far. I'm actually pulling it to my previous section that I have combed away. I repeat a lot, but that's my job. And each time, follow your guidelines. So my vertical shape will be round, my horizontal shape will be square. So using geometry can, by use of geometry and in combination of the technique, you can actually, or in combination of disconnection, you can create very textured looks. There you go, my last comb here.
So Dennis, if you were to go and get your inspiration from someone else, who would you recommend for people to go?
What do you mean? Like a place to be?
In hairdressing.
In hairdressing, inspiration is very, very personal. You just can even see enough on the street, like a street view. Some people, they go to museums, like myself. Some other people, they hate museums. I know hairdressers that don't like museums. Give me 1 second. Look, this here, the last section, I will not cut at all. I will actually only blend it in with the external shape.
Why is that?
So this gives a certain dynamic onto the shape. Yeah, you will see at the end as well when we're going to start sweeping the hair around. So you've got actually a long bit here. So if you take this up, you see you've got this long bit that is not connected. But when it falls down, you don't see it as disconnection. It's quite invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason why it's very, very helpful, and I do this a lot, is with people with very weak hairlines. When you layer the hair through, you lay on shorter haircuts, you layer the hair through, and the last section you just connect with your external shape, with your outline, then you won't see any transparency in this area. All right, moving on to zone number 4, is this part here. Here we go. You conceal zone 1 and 2. And now again, this is divided actually in three parts. So part number 1 is here, part number 2 is here, and part number 3 is at the top. So part 1, subdivide zone number 4. There we go. We need another clip. There you go. Take that one. Again, I will take vertical sections and take a length that does not connect whatsoever with anything from the back or the top. It will be a shorter length. Same here. Taking it to the previous section. And because it is actually below the rounding of the head, my cutting line will be square as well. So square cutting line is actually anything square, vertical or horizontally, will balance or compensate the head shape. This is very useful if you're at the back as well, when you work with clients with flatter crown areas or flatter back of the head. There you go.
So Dennis, are you just judging where you want to take that to? Because you said you're not following a guide there. Like your length at the bottom.
Yes, no. So I take my first section is a complete different new guideline.
Yeah.
And then the second, I'm pulling to the first one.
Okay, so that first section, you're just seeing where you want that to sit, basically, your length on that.
I want it because I did it, I should show you the result. I want it shorter on this side because the side parting is on the other side.
Yeah.
On this side, I want the first section as a sort of an undercut. You can see it as an undercut. Undercut is not only shaving the hair off, but the purpose of this, what I'm doing now, will give actually the texture later on. Because the shorter length, a longer length, and again a longer length, those shorter lengths each time pushes each other, but that creates the texture without using actually thinning scissors.
Okay.
There you go. Taking this to the previous section. So in this case, my vertical shape is square. My horizontal shape will also be square. And on this side, I cut everything off until the front. There you go. That's, so you see it is shorter on this side now. Okay? Now I have a second zone in zone number 4. There you go. And this again will be a new guideline. Again, taking a vertical section. It needs to be shorter than that. Needs to be shorter. So this is my previous section. This is again a new section.
How are you judging that?
And judging this has to be just about the same length from the back, but it has to be longer than that. So it needs to fall over. Yeah. Again, now from that point, I'm also going to pivoting sections. There you go. How much time I have, guys?
10 minutes left. 10 minutes.
It's not 1 hour.
It is.
There you go. So I'm taking pivoting sections from that same point and taking everything on the base. Again, from that point, come away.
We've just done a technical issue, guys.
Yeah.
The camera just turned off to
Oh no. So that I'm not on the screen now.
No, we can hear you still.
Yeah, this is. Hello guys. Sorry, little technical bit of solved. Everyone can see me now again?
Yeah, you're a bit closer this time.
Okay. Better?
Perfect.
All right, so this is the first part, as you see as well, when I'm taking now a vertical section all the way down and I'm checking, you can clearly see the disconnection sitting. So we got 1, and then we got 2 that falls over. So that will actually push. This is very, very good when you do this in curly hair or wavy hair, because that will push the weight in different directions and give the texture. And then the last section, and the last section exactly the same on the top. Again, is a new guideline whatsoever. I'm taking this square off. So again, it has to be longer than the previous section. It has to be longer than this section. And that falls again, it pushes again at the bottom. So you've got like, they call it, you know, some companies they call it reverse layering. There you go, and then the same, pivoting around towards the front. There you go. And from that same point again.
Is this a technique that you would use in the salon, Dennis?
Yeah,
Like for
definitely.
an everyday client?
Definitely, definitely. It may maybe look complicated, but it's not. It's really not complicated. It's because I don't, like I said before as well, I do not use, or I'm not used to be like using thinning scissors. So I need to create some different in lengths to create that texture. Because sometimes with only point cutting on dry hair is not enough to end up with a textured look. So that's why you need to find a way to actually create that texture with a certain technique, which is called disconnection. Or I call it internal length difference. I used to work for Wella as well. I always had a problem with using the word disconnection when I was teaching in the academy, because it is because I am a foreigner, disconnection is a very scary word, as in disconnect. Especially, this is a time of language that hairdressers talk about towards clients as well. It must be sounding very, very scary. Okay, this is how it is wet. Yeah, I'm going to show you a result and you'll find. This is up.
Also,
She doesn't like me, apparently. Let me come. So, as you see, while you're combing the hair in different directions, yeah, it has, I'm going to go to come through it. You see better. There you go. So you see here, my first zone here, then my second zone here, and then my third zone here. So everything falls and it actually creates lots of movement in the hair. And the same at the back. Now during refinement, yeah, I use refinement, I use as a pointing technique. So I'm leave the bits over a little bit so you get like a softer look. Well, actually, when I'm refining or cutting into the hair, I mostly take horizontal sections instead of vertical sections to point in. Now, why is this? Is because the hair falls actually like horizontally. Taking vertical sections and point into is very placed on certain placement in the hair. By using horizontally sections, it will be more evenly diffused. Doing that. Are there any questions, guys? Because it's coming towards the end.
So would this be, because you've got different sections with different lengths, would this be quite a hard haircut, obviously, to check?
No, definitely not. You can check, like, look, I'm going to check. Now, I'm going to check the bottom here, so zone number 1. And you check this.
So you would just need to kind of remember where your zones are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to not comb into, like, for instance, if you take a horizontal section, you comb it out, and you have actually zone 1 underneath, and zone 2 is already here as well. So what you then do is actually you use your comb, you hold your comb here, and then you only cut into zone number 1.
Fab.
And this is zone number 2, and cut again.
Fab.
So you can actually, without looking out where the zone is, I'm going to show you one more time here on the side as well. I'm definitely already in the second part of zone 4, but when I'm taking it, see, I've got 2 lengths. I got the length from the underneath, and I got actually my zone, my second part of this zone. So what I'm doing, I'm taking the hair with my comb, I comb it into and then I comb that, which is longer,
Mhm.
and I cut again. So you don't really need to look out for your zone again when you refining the hair.
Yeah.
So you see there's lots of texture in the hair. You don't see any disconnection. Now there's different ways of wearing it as well. Because I have a longer panel here that I didn't cut, if you wear it on this side, you got a totally different look. So you got actually the long hair that sits here in this kind of side parting.
Mhm.
If you do it on the other side, because I've got the shorter bits here, you got like a little fringe into a longer bit.
Yeah.
Understand?
Fab. Yeah.
Fab, fab. That's a long time I heard that word, fab. So you see, this is a little bit more creative, but more commercial look. Very useful in the salon, and I do like the texture as well. Styling is also very personal to certain persons. I'm gonna leave it by here now. Are there any questions so far?
There's none coming through, and I've asked everything I wanted to.
I want to thank you so much for listening to me. It was really nice to meet you guys on the other side. Hopefully we can see each other in the future again. Please check our website and check our videos that we actually go through the Hero project, because you're going to see us three cutting on it. And it goes from classic into creative haircuts. But thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank
Excellent.
you very much.
So once again, if you guys want any of the cutting diagrams from today, make sure you follow us on Instagram, send us a message, and obviously say who you are, and we'll get them sent over to you. No problem at all.
And thank you very much for everyone's time this afternoon. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks to wonderful team, and thanks to Wella as well for the support.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
See you all
Thank you
soon.
very much, guys. It's been really, really interesting. Loved it. Thank you very much.
Take care. See you later. Bye.
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 Take care. Bye.
Bye.